My name is Justine Button. I'm the Director of Admission here at BES, and we are thrilled that you are here for our second virtual open house series. My favorite part of this job is obviously having families on campus. And while we are having individual visits right now, we definitely miss our large open house gatherings. So we're being creative with these series, and I hope that it's an opportunity for all of you to just join us and hear from our amazing faculty tonight. And then we will have a student group in a week. Once again, my job is great because I get to celebrate and sell all of the amazing people that we have working here at BES. So I hope that tonight you'll get to see some of these great faces. And it's funny, tonight I got on with this group, and already tonight we had a faculty versus student game. And so we were all out playing on the field against students, and one of them has duty. And it's just the beauty of boarding schools. We wear many hats, we have a lot of fun doing it, and just the collegiality among us all. So it's really fun. So I'm going to introduce the amazing Mimi Csatlos. Mimi is our academic dean and the director of college counseling. So she does a lot on campus. She's going to also introduce some other faculty members and really touch on this VES academic philosophy, specifically the concept of intellectual playfulness. So I'm going to turn it over to Mimi, and then I will kind of conclude the night. But once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Justine. I'm just glad to have you all here and to be able to tell you more about what makes learning at VES so special. So I have a presentation here that I will share with you, and we'll be having our awesome faculty jump in and share some stories too about what their classrooms are like. So I just want to thank them all for being here too. So here we are on Front Jet. It always feels like a celebration of students here at VES, and graduation is definitely the pinnacle of that. But what really grounds our work and keeps us all anchored in our Towards Full Stature mission is our portrait of a VES graduate. I think about 5 years ago, we did a lot of work in creating our strategic plan to really make sure we were coming from that, defining our why. What is it that we want to make a commitment about delivering to our students and to our families? And the portrait of a VES graduate is our commitment to encourage growth in these 5 areas over the course of each student's time with us. So I'll just quick go through, and I want you to keep your ears open as you're hearing stories from our teachers about how these different facets are coming through in their classrooms. And the first one will start at the lower end. We want our students to be self-aware. We want them to be able to sort of step back and look at where they are in their learning process, in their personal growth, and have a sense of their strengths and also opportunities, their challenges, where they can do even better. So we try as teachers and advisors and coaches to always have those conversations to help students see where they are and how they can use their strengths and how they can sort of keep filling in those gaps that we all have. Next, we remind students to be focused on community, because that's the beautiful thing about going to school where the majority of students are residents and the vast majority of teachers live here. As we work on ourselves, we have to give back to one another, and that's what enables us to really be our best selves and the best school we can be. So we are always seeking ways to use our strengths to give back to the whole. Curious, innovative thinkers and producers are our goal. We're going to talk more about that in the academic philosophy. But that's a really important piece of what we do. We want our students to be proud of the work they create, and we want them to be thinking of what they can add to the conversations. It's not just a focus on the content of specific academic disciplines, but we want them to be able to contribute to those areas too. We want our students to be mindful leaders who serve with courage and compassion. We want them to be able to engage in civil discourse and to have hard conversations when they need to, and to always remember it goes back to that focus on community, how they can be contributing to the good of the whole. And I think so often when students especially shift into high school, that concept of a leader feels like, oh, a team captain or a class president. But there are so many different ways to lead. And some of those aren't flashy. They're just, sitting down and listening and supporting a friend. That's a kind of leadership, and being the best role model you can be. That is a very important kind of leadership. And it does, like, it's so fun to talk to ninth graders and hear about the impact that, the seniors have on them. And it might not be a senior with a specific leadership role. It's just they become role models in this community. So we try to help students find their leadership style, so that when you zoom ahead to when they're filling out college applications and things like that, they're able to articulate what their leadership characteristics are and how they contribute to the community. And of course, we want students to be ready to navigate and continue their personal growth in our dynamic world. And goodness gracious, there has been no time like the past 9 months when the relevance and the importance of this part of our commitment has shown through. And I think one of the things that's the coolest about the Portrait of a Graduate is it applies to all of us as faculty members too. We have to use all of these traits to help role model and to help this community moving forward. And we have certainly had to adapt to a dynamic and ever shifting playing field. And I truly believe that because we're anchored in this Portrait of a Graduate, we've been able to adapt and do some really beautiful work in a really challenging time. I've been very, very thankful over the past 8 or 9 months that we had this to sort of recenter ourselves in during challenging times. So another portion and offshoot of the Portrait of a Graduate has been our academic philosophy. So we decided as a faculty that even though we're in all different disciplines and we're unique as individual educators, we wanted something to unite all of us in our work. And it was from a faculty group that we created this academic philosophy. And the first part is that our faculty are designers. We want to be able to, stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in the world of education and within our own disciplines. And we want to be able to use what we learn to make our classrooms the best places they can be, and to, adapt and make sure we are preparing our kids, going back to that Portrait of a Graduate, for what they need for the future. And we want to do that by first and foremost asking dynamic questions. We want our students to be thinking critically about the world around them, about the subjects that we teach, and we also want them to be able to ask great questions themselves. So it works both ways. We try to come up with great questions, and we encourage them to ask the right questions too. And intellectual playfulness drives our practice. And it's so fun to look, we've had this for several years now. And this, as you might imagine, was the point where there's sort of the most, like, I don't know, does that sound kind of like lower school or like a little kid thing when we were sort of shopping this around? But we love this so much. And I have to share, there were 2 other schools when we adopted this academic philosophy where I could find this phrase used in their body of work and in their writings. And those 2 schools were Stanford's Graduate School of Business. They talked about the greatest entrepreneurs, the most successful entrepreneurs, having a spirit of intellectual playfulness. And also in Carnegie Mellon's admissions office, they said that a spirit of intellectual playfulness was something that they looked for in their applicants. So that was really validating to find. And interestingly, and I don't want to, I haven't done the research, so I can't claim how much of a trendsetter we have been, but now you can find it in lots of other places. So I like to think we were sort of early out on the road of intellectual playfulness. And I think our teachers will talk more about it, but it is an inspirational concept. And, there's a time when you have to stand in front of a class and share content, and but we never want to be like those, teachers in the Charlie Brown cartoons, the womp, 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 like if we catch ourselves doing that, it's like, whew, I'm going to come back tomorrow and we are going to do something that's engaging and hands-on and memorable for our students. And then you can see the last point here comes back to our portrait of a graduate. We want to make sure our students are creating things in their classrooms and that they are invested in the work they create, whether that is a paper, a story, a project that they've been working on in a group for a while. And we want any writing that they do or art they create to communicate effectively to their audience. So that notion of publishing and sharing out your work is really important to us. And it's something that we try to build into all of our classes. But I'm going to stop this share right now and ask Amanda Rem to share some stories from her class. Amanda Rem is the chair of our World Language Department. She is a dorm parent on McCormick Dorm, which is the 9th grade girls dorm, and she is a head tennis coach. I will stop talking now and let you take over.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mimi, for that introduction, and you did great. I coach tennis, live on the dorm, teach some Spanish, and I'm the world language chair. But the best thing about my job is just interacting with students. So even just the idea that some of you out there are future students is really exciting for me, just to think that next year you could be here with us. I am going to talk to you guys a little bit about how we live into a portrait of a graduate in the academic philosophy in the world language department. And I started today mentally making a list of all the things we do in our department. And I have to say, if you would let me, which they won't, I could talk this whole time about just what my department does. And all of my colleagues in other departments do such great things. So I'll definitely won't talk the whole time, and I'll let them share what they do. But I was thinking today about different members of the department and thinking about how last weekend, there was a taco truck that the Spanish 5 class researched, and they made tacos in a little taco truck for everybody at school. And it was a huge hit and probably the best tacos I've ever had. Another one of my teachers is teaching the kids salsa dancing and tango, and just teaching them different kinds of dances and the history behind them. I saw that in Spanish 1, they're learning their family, but they're using the Star Wars family tree to learn family. And then in French class, they make crepes, they do debates. I mean, just our language teachers really love that idea of intellectual playfulness and are so grateful that we get to work at a school that values that. But I want to talk to you about the one project that we do as a department, which is, I just think, the most fun thing that we do. And it's called the Oscars Project. And in the Oscars Project, we ask everybody in all language classes within their class, they work in groups of anywhere from 3 to 6 students to create a short film. And to do this short film, we give time in class. We think this is really valuable. They write a script. The students work together to write a script in their target language, in Spanish or French or Chinese. Then the teacher goes through the script with them. They edit, they kind of figure stuff out, and then they begin filming and gathering props, and then they film their scenes. And then they edit, and then after about 3 to 4 weeks of working on this, they show them to their classes, and it's a big deal. We make a big deal out of it that day. Everybody comes and we watch the Oscars in our classes. And those are just the ones that your class made, and sometimes a teacher will show all the ones their students have made. And then the students are on pins and needles to know which of the films are going to be presented in the Oscars. We meet in the theater as a whole school and we show these films, and it's a big fanfare. People dress up. The students who have been nominated often dress up. Other students are pulled in as presenters. We usually have a couple students be the MCs for the night. And so we see these films, And we actually bring in outside judges who are experts in the language, different languages, and they are the ones that vote. So the teachers have nothing to do with this. There's just outside judges that vote on the best films. And there is one that the students get to vote on, which is the viewer's choice, which is the most coveted award of them all, obviously, because that's the one their classmates vote on. And then we go have this big celebration dinner. It's fancy. We have champagne flutes with sparkling cider, and the dining hall goes out of their way to make just this wonderful meal. And then we give Oscars awards. I mean, we truly have heavy statues, and we give them out based on what the judges judged. And it is just such a fun night. And I think what's so validating about it for students is they start with this idea and they get to see it on the big screen, and they get to show a real product to a real audience. So thank you guys for showing up tonight and letting me share with you.
That's awesome, Amanda. And I don't know, I know I've told you this before, but we've had so many college essays and supplements written about the foreign language or the world language Oscars. And a lot of times the prompt that they're addressing is about a time you had to work with a group and what you learned during that experience. So yeah, there have been some really great ones, and showing that like reflection on leadership too, like the directors who were like, I wanted it to be just my way and I was so frustrated, then I realized I need to let other people's ideas and voices come through too. So it's really cool to see all they learned from that project. Thank you so much. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Jessie Thompson, who is our visual arts teacher and just produces so much beautiful work. She also runs after-school arts programs and is a dorm parent.
Hey, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here, parents and future students. I wanted to explain that I love the fact that we are treated as designers as faculty, because there's always room for me to stay inspired. That growth that happens in me makes me a better educator and makes me more comfortable with taking risks. And those risks pay off in the classroom because we have students who love to learn and they step up when you present them with a dynamic question. I mean, they step up, they surprise, they come up with magical solutions, and they're great, innovative producers. So my example, we were learning about organic shapes. And so we looked at organic shapes in famous works of art, and then we drew, like just practiced organic shapes, went outside, collected leaves, drew organic shapes, and then took it to another level by presenting the students with the idea of composing their own bouquet of flowers in a vase. But we talked about like, so what is a vase, right? A vase could be any sort of container. And the students stepped up and developed their own compositions that went beyond that. For example, I had a student who drew an animal skull, like a wall hanging animal skull, and then had flowers growing out of the eyes. I had a student who drew a side profile of a female face and then had the hair transition into the flowers. And then I had another student who drew a skeleton hand and then had the skeleton hand holding dried flowers. So it's just an example of where students can take a dynamic question and use intellectual playfulness to come up with a unique solution, and like have some ownership over their own creativity and innovation in the classroom. And so not only do they surprise me, but they surprise and inspire each other. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, we can step it up the next time. So if I drew a vase in like traditional vase and flowers, then maybe next time I'd be more ready to make that jump and do something risky that creates growth.
That's awesome, Jessie. And Jessie, I want you to plug to your Instagram page, because Jessie shares out her like beautiful work pretty regularly from her students, and I love looking at it. So I would love anyone to go check that out.
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, so any of you that would want to join, it's Art with Miss Thompson, and I'll put it in the chat so you can easily find it. I think it's just another way to show off high quality, beautiful work. And the kids get excited when their work is on there. And it's a way to connect with other art students across the country and other art educators, and to show parents. I really started it to show parents the process, because sometimes process is more important than the product. So just like what we're learning, how we're getting there, and not always like what we hang on the wall in the gallery. So yeah, I'll put that in the chat. Thanks, Mimi.
Thank you. And next we have Matt Lafreniere, who is an English teacher, a published poet, and also our Assistant Dean of Faculty. So Matt and Jenny Anderson, who's our Dean of Faculty, they are in classrooms regularly, as all the teachers here can attest to. And every time they observe a class, they give teachers feedback that's connected to our academic philosophy. So that's a really important way that we make sure those words aren't just like put on a list somewhere and, you know, forgotten about. We really live with those words all the time. So Matt also lives on campus. I don't know what you're coaching. Do you have a coaching thing this year?
Lacrosse. Thanks, Mimi. Hello, everyone. So happy you're here. I want to talk about one of my favorite ways to, kind of harness intellectual playfulness, and really one of the most successful, I think, is collaboration. And Jesse and I actually try to collaborate as much as we can. And teaching English and fine arts, I think share a lot of headspace and heart space anyway. So it's kind of natural for them to, to coalesce a little bit. But one project in particular that we both found success with in terms of our kids collaborating was a poem my students wrote about the T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. And it's a longer poem, and it's kind of a dense poem, but it's a really fun poem. And it's a poem that we all, teenagers certainly, but we all can identify with in a lot of ways. And I had my students write a poem based off of something within that poem. And it could have been a rock, a tree, the street, the fog, a teacup, but they had to write from the perspective of something within that poem. And then the students took those poems to Jesse's Studio Art 2 class, and they partnered up, and Jesse's students wanted to talk with my students about their poem and then render kind of their poem visually. But they had to work together to really come up with, well, first my students had to kind of articulate where they were going, what they were trying to express as the experience of their poem to their partner in Jesse's Studio Art 2 class, and then work together to kind of accompany the poem with an image, with a painting. And the work was really fun and really beautiful. And the students, what was great about it was the space, the creative space that the students shared across disciplines, and in creating, and really, two things became one in a really beautiful way. And it was very much a stretch of the intellect. And I like to think of intellectual playfulness as, kind of something that makes your mind smile. And I think there were a lot of minds smiling with that project.
Oh, thank you so much. I know it's so beautiful. And now I want to turn the conversation over to Trey Nicholson, who's with us in his second year here. Trey teaches U.S. history and also helps in our learning resources office, where he supports students who benefit from some extra one-on-one time, and he does an amazing job in that work. Trey's also our head football coach. He came here from UVA, where he played football. I'll let you talk a little bit about your classroom.
Thanks, Mimi. Hello, everyone out there. As my colleagues were talking, I had all these different activities that we've done last year, from poetry to creating art to collaborating. And I just wanted to share a few. So, and just try to pull together some of the things that my colleagues just talked about that we do in history class. But last year, when we started to explore the 3 branches of government, Mr. Button and I was co-teaching with Mr. Button at the time. we had our students create in any way they can a 3D model of the three branches of government. And we let them run with it. And of course, you got students that literally went out and found a branch and had a tree branch and had different branches coming off of it and had strings hanging with the details we asked them to have in it. We had one group make like a pasta bowl with three meatballs in it as the three branches, with spaghetti noodles as the roles and purpose of the three branches of government. So it got pretty creative in there, and I thought that was a lot of fun. And then around the time of learning about the civil rights movement, we had our students break up into groups in our classroom, and we gave each of them a time period of Martin Luther King's life. And we didn't tell them anything to write. We just said, this is the time period of his life that you need to write about, and write a stanza for a poem. We collaborated and brought all of those stanzas together and created a very long poem that kind of traced Dr. King's life from beginning to his death. With history, it's a lot of hard topics to talk about, and it's controversial at times, and it's a lot of difficult discussions. So I always look for ways to have students engage in these conversations in a fun way where they're learning, but they're also engaging in a way where they'll remember what they're talking about, but they can be open enough to have conversations and to grapple with tough curriculum and tough conversations to have in class. But I do want to talk about a project that we're doing right now that I think is pretty awesome. Students just finished it. So over the summer, one of my colleagues, Mr. Rivenberg, and we collaborated and talked about our curriculum and what do we want to do in terms of the election that was going on right now. And we kind of put our heads together and came up with this idea of having our students create a public service announcement, and they will be the actual news anchors who will be reporting to the public. And we had a list of 10 topics that students could choose from. We had education, gun policy, race relations, foreign policy, all of these different topics. And so we made students research the Republican perspective on this topic and the Democratic perspective on the topic. No matter what their political views were, it didn't matter. So we made sure that they had to research the facts and present these facts in an unbiased way. This was another cool thing of this project. We collaborated with our filmmaking class, which Mr. Csatlos teaches here at VES, and we had one student from filmmaking collaborate with one group from each of our classes, and they helped to edit the videos and the news reports so that they were really nice and really prepared to go and be presented to their classmates. It was fun, but it was challenging. And I think when you can find fun in the middle of a challenge, that's where students can learn, and that's where they're kind of stretching their minds.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about that project and how much the kids are loving it. And last but not least, we have Courtney Rainey, who's also a dorm parent and a math teacher. I know a bunch of you said you love math, so here you go. And Miss Rainey teaches honors geometry right now, so she does teach a lot of our ninth graders too. And I know we have a lot of ninth graders here, so take it away, Courtney.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to see so many people put math in there. That just like warms my heart. I think math, sometimes people think like, how can it be beautiful? But there are so many pieces of math that are like beautiful and creative, where you get to be a designer, especially in honors geometry. And I think it shows through in our math department too, because we all like passionately love math, similar to the other departments that love their subject, which is something really cool about our faculty. I think we all are hardcore nerds about our subject, and we are proud of it. But honors geometry is all about being creative with our proofwriting, which is challenging and fun, and you get to kind of nuance your way through it and be creative in it. We get to make cool projects. We start off the year, instead of taking a test on the first chapter, which is a lot of review, like area and perimeter stuff that you guys might be doing now or have done in the past, and we make our own playground. So you have like parameters, you have like this amount of fencing, you have to have these certain items in your playground, but then you and usually a partner get to kind of just run with it. I think math is made beautiful through collaboration, and that dynamic conversation that you can have with a group member about math, challenging each other, making each other think harder about what you're doing. And then we present the playgrounds to each other. We vote on whose playground looks the most fun to play on, which is always a heated contest. And I think I'm always like blown out of the water by students' work. They work incredibly hard on it in class and outside of class on their own. I think one of the coolest pieces of being in a math classroom at VES is the students are so willing to kind of mess up in front of each other. They're willing to try new things. They're willing to say something wrong because they trust that their classmates are going to have their back. And the best way to learn math is to make mistakes. And I think there's a lot of that going on inside the classroom, and that's what we want. We want people to safely fail. We want them to productively struggle. And that's kind of where the dynamic and beautiful thinking comes in math, is those classroom discussions, those collaboration times with other students. So yeah, math is beautiful all the time. We had some rational functions out with chalk last week, which was fun, and kids were like, wow, this looks amazing. So I think there's a lot of times where math just becomes this beautiful work of art, which is always my favorite.
Well, thank you so much, Courtney. It's like everyone said, it really is our students who inspire us so much. I can't tell you how good it felt to get back on campus in person in September. And we just feel like this is how it's supposed to be. And it's hard to make it work, but it is worth it all the time. And again, I'm so glad so many of you mentioned how much you love math and coding, and all these different STEM fields, because I did want to take a minute to show you some of the amazing resources and opportunities we have in the field of STEM. We have a Science and Math Advanced Consortium, which is primarily for seniors. Every now and then we have a junior, but it's for students who've shown a strong interest in math and or science over their time here. And I just have to point out this little picture here. It's from just a couple of weeks ago. And the student who you see on the screen, his name's Richard Lynn. And he graduated, I always forget what class he was in, but he just finished up at Stanford. And he's a student who was also a part of our advanced studies program here, where he designed this robotic arm, which was just the coolest thing ever. So this is Mr. Hanning teaching the Science and Math Advanced Consortium. He invited Richard back to talk to the current class about some of his work. And one of the things that I want you all to hear this, because I know sometimes we're like, oh, group work, because it can be hard and you don't always control all the pieces. What Richard said in this talk was that he only does group work now, that group work is central to everything he does in terms of engineering and design. So it was very validating, I think, to all of us to hear that it's so important to learn how to do group work well, because especially if you're heading in a STEM field, you're going to have to do a lot of it. And it is a skill that we have to learn. We have an amazing robotics team here that competes in different robotics competitions, and there's a lot of our robotics kids also compete in our teams competition, with is the test of engineering and mathematics and science. I think I got all the letters right, but we traditionally do very, very well in that competition. We have a robust computer science program. I think that's something that's very distinctive about VES. You can take computer science all the way through your time here. We have computer science 1, which all 9th graders take, and then there's semester courses that are 2 and 3, and a year-long computer science 4, and our advanced study program, which is a independent study that seniors can apply, or rising seniors can apply to complete in their senior year. We have had many students do advanced studies in computer science where they're designing apps and just doing other cool building and creating. We have one student who is designing, using Arduino to build an LED clock. So it's lots of cool building and producing. Our math curriculum goes up to multivariable calculus. So we have AP Calc AB and BC, and also AP Stats. And our math students who are just all in on the beautiful math concept might even get to multivariable calculus and do an advanced study independent project after that. This is Zach, who you see at the podium there, and he was one of those students who did an advanced study project in game theory and ended up collaborating with a professor down the road at Randolph College to do some really cool work there. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, we have our video productions and Bishop's Radio and Bishop's TV group. Bishop's Radio, we always have students who love to step in, who are interested in broadcasting, and that is a great venue through which to do that. We also have students who help with the live streaming of our games and just help us create cool content to use to share with you and others. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved in STEM. And also something that's very distinctive about VES is that you get to go to school with students from all around the world. And again, back to that focus on community, we just all enrich each other's lives so much, and it helps us understand things from a more global perspective. And I mean, I've always found it to be one of the things about this community that I love the most, to get to develop friendships and relationships with people from all over the world. We have great travel opportunities. Again, if this is something you're interested in, we're always so happy to tell you more. And I think you heard from our teachers how important project-based learning is to the work we do, because again, it speaks to so many parts of that portrait of a graduate. Because working collaboratively really is the future, and we see it all the time. All right, last but not least. So I have fortunate to have worked in college counseling for, gosh, I think 10 years now. And I'm so lucky to also have two other college counselors in our office, Amy Kadelka and Elizabeth Blom. Our approach to college counseling really is a 4-year approach. We start talking to 9th and 10th graders through our student life curriculum, making sure they understand what they need to do to leave as many doors open as possible, and to help understand their strengths again as they're moving forward, and keep engaging in those hobbies and activities that interest them the most. In the junior year, our students meet with us every week in the second semester. We have group sessions where we give them important information about the college admissions process, and also one-on-one meetings. And right now we're in the middle of application season, and November 1st is our biggest deadline of the year. And we just processed, I think, over close to 170 applications to different colleges. And, you know, with 3 of us in the office, we each work individually with about 20 to 25 students. So it's a really great ratio. We can, you know, be available to give a lot of individual help, and we work with the families as much as they want to be worked with. Some families are like, you've got it. I trust you. We don't need to be a part of this. And there's some families who want weekly check-ins, and we are happy to help with either. We get to know what families hope to hear from us, and we accommodate. So our students go to a wonderful array of schools. We're so proud that they're going to schools that really fit them well and will serve them well in terms of their goals. And we try to help students get some more clarity about their goals too. I think we all know that, you know, most people end up shifting careers and jobs many times over the course of their lives, not all, but we try to get students to get a clear sense of their interests, what they want to learn more about, what problems they want to help solve as they head off to college. So this little on the right, I have this in my office, and we have it everywhere, but that sense of purpose is really what we're trying to help cultivate in our students, you know, thinking about what they love, how they can help the world, what they're good at, and ultimately what they get paid for too, because that's a piece of the puzzle when we're looking long term. I meant to say too, if you want to look at some more details about the specific classes we offer and our academic policies and things like that, if you go to the college counseling tab on the school's website, I think it's actually under like the information for college admissions representatives, but you'll find a link to our school profile. And it's a very helpful 4-page document. The last page has lists of the colleges that our students have attended in the recent past. And then the 3rd page lists all our course offerings and has a lot of helpful information too. The first pages talk about different leadership opportunities, but that's a document that goes along with every college application that we send out, and it helps the college admissions readers put our students in context. So you might be interested in that.
Thanks, Mimi. That was really fun. And I loved hearing from all of our different faculty. Students and parents, many of you on this list have visited, but if you haven't, make sure you're engaging with our office. We would love to have you come to visit BES. And if any of these faculty members on our panel, if you would like to meet with them, you can request that. So just know we will be meeting with faculty and students on your visit. We will do an outdoor tour of campus, obviously, and then you'll get to engage with our admission office. So definitely reach out if you have not done that. We will continue this virtual series. So our next one is going to be on November 15th. So coming up soon, and it will be our exciting, amazing, fantastic students to be our panelists, answer questions. So we will send an invite after this, but definitely join us for that. Prospective students, that is a great opportunity to just see some of your peers that you're going to connect with here at BES. And parents, it's a wonderful opportunity to ask our students, honest questions about their VES experience. So we hope to see you all on November 15th. And I know tonight everyone has a lot to do. So we just are so grateful that you could join us and join us again. Thanks for being with us, and everyone have a wonderful night. Take care.